Hey filmmakers, how are you guys doing tonight? Welcome back to yet another late night live stream. Thanks for hanging in there while I got through a couple little technical difficulties. So if you clicked on this video, as you know, we're going to be talking about full frame versus APS-C crop sensors today. So am I leaving full frame behind? That's the big question, right? And we're going to dive into that in this live stream. So hang out with me, put your comments down below, chat, let me know what you think, and I'll be giving you, lots of input on this. And let me know as well, are you team full frame? Are you shooting on full frame cameras or crop sensors or micro four thirds or maybe medium format? Getting one of the new Fuji cameras, medium format, who knows? But yeah, so this should be a fun live stream. Really chill, just hang out with me. We're going to talk all about it. Let's see who's already in the live chat. We got Reynolds. What's up, man? He says, why are you leaving full frame? We're going to get to that and we'll see. Am I actually leaving full frame? We're going to get there really soon. So yeah, this is a topic that I've been wanting to cover for a while on the channel because I think it's something that there's a lot of, how do I say this? There's a lot of hype around full frame and everyone thinking that it is the only thing that you can, like it's the ultimatum. You've got to get to full frame to have the best camera. And I think that there's a lot of misconceptions there. So just like right off the bat, I think a lot of you guys already know this, but when it comes to shooting on full frame cameras and sensors, almost every television show and movie that you've ever watched was shot on a Super 35 sensor or crop sensor, or maybe even smaller, 16 millimeters. So almost everything. There are many shows that are starting to be shot on full frame, but really that's only been happening in just the past couple years. I don't even mean like 5 years. I mean like maybe 3 years or so that people have been starting to shoot bigger Hollywood blockbuster films on full frame. And it's still pretty rare because there's not a lot of great, there are good full frame sensor cinema cameras, but they're very expensive. So they're kind of far and few in between right now. So that's what I want to talk about, and how there are still really, really, really great television shows, movies, commercials, ads, everything like that being shot on crop sensors. So for me, the biggest struggle has been, whether or not I should stay with the full frame line of cameras, like for instance, the Sony A7S line, and keep investing in those lenses or not. So it's been a big struggle for me. And I'm going to dive into it really deep in this. So let's check out the comments real quick. What's up? Shivam Kumar says, hi, how you doing? Titus Nixon says he's shooting on 35. So I'm assuming Super 35. And Neil Otan says, is airy better than red? I think that's subjective. A lot of people claim, that one is better than the other. If I could choose any camera in the world, it would be an Arri Alexa, probably, maybe the large format, but that's what we're talking about here, whether it's full frame or not. So, but if I had to choose the next second best, it would be red. Tons of stuff is being shot on red. So many movies, so many Netflix shows. So is Arri better than red? I think that's a matter of opinion for most people. So hard to say, man. I like the look of Arri better. I do. I think I like the way it looks much more filmic and less digital. And I think the skin tones are better and the colors are better. But the red look is obviously freaking gorgeous as well. So anyway, so talking about full frame. So the full frame camera that I've been shooting the most on is the Sony A7S 1, 2, and now the 3. And those have really been the cameras that have been leading the way in full frame. Yes, there are a ton of other mirrorless cameras that are full frame now. Obviously there's the Canon EOS R, the RP, the R5, what is there? Nikon Z6 and Nikon Z7. There's a whole bunch of other mirrorless cameras now that are doing full frame, but really, I think we all know that Sony A7S line has really led the charge on getting people into full frames, like cinematography beyond photography. So we're not talking about photography here. I think there's definitely a place for full frame, like in photography, more so than probably in video, but that could be controversial. So yeah, I've been shooting on the Sony a7S all this time, but recently, just a few months back, sold my a7S1. I still shoot on the a7S2 and 1 and sometimes the 3 at the studio that I work at. But personally, I don't own a full frame camera anymore. So am I leaving full frame behind? Not necessarily, but I don't personally own it. Still shooting on it at my studio, but I don't think it's going to be something that I personally invest in anymore. And there's a couple reasons for that, and we're going to dive into that kind of throughout this stream. So one of the main reasons that I think full frame is difficult to stay invested in is it's very, very expensive. So first of all, the cameras are more expensive. So, the new Sony a7S III, $3,500. I did, a whole review of it on this channel, and you guys may have seen that. But that was just on loan to me and just, as a rental, basically testing it out and everything like that on loan from the company and sent it back. So I don't think right now that I'm going to buy it. That may change in the future, but as of right now, $3,500 just doesn't seem worth it to me. So full frame, very expensive. And the Sony FX6, obviously that's, the full frame cinema camera that I would say is like the entry level of full frame cinema cameras. That's $6,000. So really expensive when you're getting into that full frame world. And that's just for the body. That's not even talking about lenses, which I'm going to do a whole deep dive on in this live stream. So we're going to get into all that. I see a bunch of chats popping in here. Let's see what's going on. Cine Format says, what's your vision? Does Blackmagic, will they announce 6K successor this year? That's hard to say. Blackmagic is kind of like Apple, to where they never, there's almost never leaks of oh, here's what's coming. They just all of a sudden dropped the Pocket 6K on us out of nowhere after we already got the Pocket 4K. It was just oh, and we made a 6K version as well. I was like, what? And then they're like, hey, we also made a 12K camera if you want to check that out. So it just, they just drop stuff randomly out of the blue. I feel like no one knows what's going to happen with them. It's funny because Blackmagic actually reached out to me 2 days ago. Someone from Blackmagic, and was like, hey, I've seen your videos, let's keep in touch. I'll send you, information about what's happening. And I was like, sure. Yeah, right. I doubt they're going to give me any information before the rest of the general public knows. We'll see though. Who knows? That'd be fun. So if I do hear something, I'll tell you when I can tell you, but I don't think that there's any new Pocket 8K coming out. But I suppose it's possible. I mean, they've already done 12K, and Canon and Sony now also getting into the 8K game. So we'll see. I guess it's possible. But truth be told, I've done a whole live stream on this as well. I'm not so concerned about the Ks, the resolution, as I am about the dynamic range and the color reproduction and color science in the camera. That's what concerns me. That's what concerns me way more than the actual resolution of the camera. I think 1080p is still fantastic. I mean, this live stream today is only in 720p, which is unfortunate, but that's what YouTube makes you do. It's a live stream. So yeah, it's possible that an 8K camera is coming out from Blackmagic, or maybe a successor to it, but I don't know. I don't need 8K. My computer can barely handle 6K right now. Is struggling with that. I know I need to update it soon. Max Soda, what's up, man? Welcome to another live stream, man. It's always good to see you. He says, I still use Micro Four Thirds, which is great for some users. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute here. So Cypher with a 3, he says, there's nothing wrong with the 6K. Yeah, nothing. I have it right here. Still use it all the time. I think really the 6K is pretty much my A cam now, that I'm using the most frequently for kind of commercial work, B-roll, that sort of stuff. So yeah, nothing wrong with the Pocket 6K. I don't feel a need to upgrade it right now. Cypher also says he's rocking the X-T4. Heck yeah, man. So also have the X-T4 right here, which not a huge difference between them. I've talked about this extensively on the channel, whether you should upgrade to the X-T4 from the X-T3. My hot take on it is no. If you have the X-T3, there's not a big reason to get the X-T4 unless you really want in-body image stabilization, but I've talked about that on the channel as well. I find the in-body image stabilization to be wacky. It gets warpy. Even with the new firmware update, doesn't do super great stabilizing my footage like the Sonys do. So anyways, kind of a random tangent there, but anyway, I love talking about gear. So Dav, what's up? He says, any idea about Sony a6400 in this year? Is it still worth it? Sure. Yeah, I would get the a6400. Obviously fantastic autofocus. I'm shooting this live stream on the Sony a6500. I still use it for talking head stuff all the time because it has really great autofocus. So yes, a6400, fantastic. If you can spring for it, I'd go for the Sony a6600 because you're going to get, that flip up screen. And besides just getting the flip up screen like you do on the 6400, you're getting in-body image stabilization, and of course, really great autofocus, headphone jack, mic jack, all that. So yeah, I'd probably go with the 6600 if you can afford to do it over the 6400. But yeah, let's get back into the full frame stuff. I love all the questions. Keep them coming. I think we'll get sidetracked here and there as we go along tonight. But if you guys are enjoying this so far, be sure that you hit the like button and are subscribed. If you're watching and you're not subscribed, that's just crazy. You definitely should be. All right, so back to the full frame versus crop sensor stuff. So here's the big meat of it that I want to start diving into a little bit deeper. So I sold my full frame cameras. I'm now on all APS-C, the X-T4, the Pocket 6K, my Sony a6500, and plenty of APS-C cameras at the studio that I work at, like the Sony FS5, the Sony FS7. We don't have actually any full frame cinema cameras. The Canon C300 Mark II, also APS-C or Super 35. Yeah, I mean, the full frame cinema camera is just getting out. So the only full frame ones we're still shooting on A7S2, A7S1, and sometimes the 3. So the biggest reason for me that I've started to steer away from full frame is the lenses. So there's a huge gap in the market for full frame cinema lenses that are affordable to indie filmmakers. So, and just like people doing client work and everything, freelance client work like I am, and like I know tons of you guys are. So when it comes to that, right now, there are a lot of lenses out there that are stills lenses, right? Tons of photography lenses that are full frame and at decent prices. You can get plenty of them. But once you want to get into the like cinema stills world, or not stills, but cinema lenses, it gets really, really expensive when you want a lens that actually has gears on it. So let me grab this one. So right here, I just have the Rokinon, right? And I have a whole set of these. They range from like 14 millimeters, all different versions up to 135 millimeters, right? And I've shot on all of them. This is the Rokinon 50 millimeter, right? And so once you want to get into a lens that can cover a full frame sensor, you don't have a lot of options when it comes to affordable full frame cinema lenses. This one is definitely the most affordable. Rokinon currently makes, I believe, the most affordable full frame cinema lenses, right? The Rokinon Cine DS line, if you need to cover a full frame sensor. But if you want to cover a full frame sensor and you don't want to go with the Rokinons, because I know a lot of people have issues with it, it's going to get very, very expensive really quickly. So I just want to show you guys a little bit about that. So let's go into screen share here. I've got B&H pulled up. And if you want a full frame sensor, full frame cinema lens, first of all, Rokinon's going to be the cheapest that comes up. $1,500, you got 4 lenses that are going to cover your main focal lengths, right? But let's say you don't want to do Rokinon. SLR Magic has some stuff, but let's get away from the Rokinons, right? I mean, B&H that's all they're serving us because there's hardly anything. $8,000 for this Vazen anamorphic one, but we don't want that. We want just normal spherical. So yeah, here we go. Here's the Angeno's, $28,000 for a full frame cine zoom, but we'll get into that later. So it's like, hey, okay, my options are not very good. So let's say that you didn't want the Rokinon, you're going to go with the Zine, which is essentially the same glass as the Rokinon glass, but a different housing and some different coatings on the glass. Well, these cover a full frame sensor, but they're $2,500 a piece for the compact versions. And then the older versions that are much larger, I've shot on those, they're huge, really heavy, not easy to balance on a gimbal. They're all about $1,800. Some of them are about $15,000, depending on where you get them. So let's say you want a set of those. You're dropping $10,000, $11,000 on cinema glass. And this is the cheap entry level, like full frame cinema lenses, man. They're expensive. So that's looking at the Zines. Let's look at Canons now. So if you want to get full frame lenses from Canon, see if I can get it to come up. Ooh, B&H is not liking me tonight. Sorry, cinema lenses from Canon. I don't know why the photos aren't loading here. There we go. All right, so $25,000 for a set of these, and I believe these cover a full frame. They provide image coverage for full frame and Super 35. Yep. So these, we have a small set of these at the studio that I currently work with, and we have is the 14 millimeter, a 50, a 85, and a 24 millimeter. And they're really expensive. And that's not even the full set, just 4 lenses. And it was very, very expensive. And they cover a full frame, but you're dropping a lot of cash in order to do that because you're trying to get a cinema lens that's high quality that covers a full frame. And yeah, so here's just one. The 24 millimeter is going to cost you about $4,000, which is just insane. So yeah, when it comes to doing that, it's just really, really expensive to get a full frame cinema lenses. It's just, yeah, it's not something that's feasible for most people. If you want to get like a full frame cinema lens that is not a Rokinon or a Zine or a Zine CF, they're like carbon fiber version, you're going to be struggling. There's not a lot of options out there. If you know of a good, affordable, full frame cinema lens, let me know. I would love to hear about it. Comment down below right now and let me know. That would be awesome. All right. Hopefully the stream is still going okay here. YouTube's giving me a little air here saying that the stream is struggling. So if it is, let me know. Hopefully you can see me and hear me okay. Let's check out a couple of the comments here. All right. Christian Vetter says, I do quite a bit of corporate video work and I just invested in 2 A7S IIIs, and I think that dynamic 4K full frame mirrorless duo will serve me well for quite some time. Loving the 4K 120. Heck yeah, Christian. Yeah, I think that the A7S IIIs are gorgeous. The dynamic range is really good. I did a whole video on that. Kind of messed it up because I was shooting, in a flat S-Log while I was shooting in RAW. Sorry, I'm drawing a blank here. I was shooting in ProRes RAW and kind of messed it up in my edit. And so if you guys saw that, you might know the way that I exported it was supposed to be for like 1000 nits monitors, and I exported it way too dim, and just it was a whole thing. Trying to work with HDR, and it was just crazy. But yeah, so it was a little bit of a struggle working with HDR, but I will say the Sony A7S III is incredible. The dynamic range that you can get out of it is incredible. So that's awesome. I think that 2 of those is really great side-by-side cameras. But so what we're talking about here though is what lenses are you using on your Sony A7S III? Chances are you're probably using stills lenses. That's what I'm assuming is like the Sony G Masters or something else that you've adapted to that are stills lenses, no teeth, no gears on them. Or maybe you're using a set of Rokinons with them if you're doing like fully manual cinema lenses. I don't know. I'd love to know. Let me know. Because I just really want to invest in cinema glass because it's much more professional to have on set. Of course, you can put your follow focus on there, iris control motors, everything like that. And it's just a little bit, you can get better quality glass than you can get for stills. And so if you want to do that with full frame, like I was showing you on B&H's website, it's incredibly expensive. So really difficult to do. So that is where APS-C or Super 35 cinema lenses come in. And that's where there are just an incredible amount of options out there. So it's much cheaper. I mean, even if you're buying APS-C glass that's just like normal photo stills glass versus full frame stills glass, the price is usually about twice the price. So say like a 24 mil APS-C lens might cost you like $800 or something. But if you want to get it for full frame, it might be like $1,600. So just that comparison right there, you're usually looking at double the price. So that's already a struggle. But now, like I was saying earlier, if you want the cinema lens that is full frame versus crop sensor, you're not talking about double the price, you're talking about triple the price, 4 times the price, 5 times the price. We saw those Canon lenses that I showed you that were like $4,000 a piece for one full frame cinema lens, whereas with an APS-C cine lens, it's much, much more affordable. You're talking about $1,200, maybe $1,500, and depending on what it is. Obviously, that's still a lot of money, but if you're investing in cinema lenses, the Super 35 route is so much more affordable. So that's why I've jumped into it. And if you saw my last video, I just did an entire video about that. This new lens I just got. This is the Tokina Cinema 11 to 20 millimeter T2.9 lens. And I'm really loving this thing. So it only covers, a Super 35 sensor, APS-C crop sensor, and it won't work on a full frame camera unless, I crop into the APS-C mode like you can on many of them. It only covers that, but it is a gorgeous lens. It has a full metal body housing, a beautiful focus throw, like 300-degree barrel change is gorgeous. And like I said, it's a zoom, a wide angle zoom, which is just crazy. You don't hear about that very often. 11 millimeters all the way to 20. So a great range, perfect for running on a gimbal, perfect for getting like wide shots, establishing shots, that sort of thing. But it's way more affordable than something you could get for full frame. Actually, I don't even think there is a full frame camera or a full frame lens out there right now that goes 11 millimeters to 20 millimeters. I mean, that would be crazy, but there, for this, there is. And the price, depending on where you get it, is about $2,400 to $2,200. It used to be a little bit cheaper. You could find them used on eBay. I've seen them on eBay for about $2,000 to $2,100. Now that's not cheap. I know that's not cheap, but it covers 11 to 20 millimeters. So a great range of lenses there. So instead of having maybe 3 lenses there, like an 11 and a 16 and a 20 millimeter, you're getting all 3 of those lenses wrapped up into here instead of having one prime or multiple primes. So that's a great win. But it's so much more affordable in the crop sensor world. I couldn't even find a full frame lens like this. It didn't exist. And if you say, hey, I'm going to get a full frame camera like the Sony A7S III, it shoots beautiful 4K, but once you crop into APS-C mode, it no longer shoots the 4K 60, 4K 120 frames per second, like all those options when you crop in. And I'm pretty sure, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure when you crop into APS-C mode, it doesn't even shoot in 4K. I'm pretty sure it goes to 1080p. Correct me if I'm wrong. So that's a big problem. So it's like, hey, I'm going to just buy a full frame camera like the A7S III or whatever it is. But I'm going to crop in on it and use these crop sensor lenses. That's still not going to be a great option for you because you're going to lose frame rates and you're probably going to lose resolution as well. So that's a problem. So that's why I was like, you know what? I think starting to invest in the Super 35 APS-C lenses, and that system is a better option, especially for indie filmmakers and videographers and stuff. So I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Am I crazy, or is this helpful and you guys are getting something out of this? All right, check out some of the comments here. Domino Stories, what's up, man? Always good to see you in the live. He says, what do you think of IMAX? I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about here. Do you just mean like IMAX, the sensors that they shoot them on that are like 75 millimeters and beyond, where you just need giant lenses. That would be cool. Not doable for any of us, I wouldn't say, but if that's what you're talking about, that'd be cool to shoot on sometime. Dav says, what do you think about DZO Films lineup? Yes, we're going to get into that a whole bunch. I don't want to ruin all the fun, but right here I have the DZO Films Pictor Zooms 20 to 50 millimeters T2.8. So we're going to be getting into this lens much more in this live stream. So I think they're great. That's the quick answer, but we're going to get into that really soon. Let's see here. Christian Vetter. Cine Format says, I'm not sure, but maybe this brands have full frame lenses as well besides Super 35. Okay, so he's asked, I think what he's saying is maybe some of these companies have full frame lenses. He's talking about Irix, Nissi, Nightcore, Mikey. Yeah, so some of these brands do have full frame lenses, and they're coming out with them, but they're still pretty far behind. So there aren't a lot of options yet for full frame cinema lenses. Like I said, Rokinon is definitely the biggest leader there. I know that Mikey, I don't know how to pronounce it, announced that they're going to come out with some full frame cinema lenses, and I'm excited to see that because I know they do those with the nice metal housing, but I haven't seen them actually hit the market yet. I know they've announced it, as well as DZO Films has announced full frame cinema lenses, but they're still pretty expensive. They're much more expensive than a lot of the other options out there. They're more expensive, I believe, than the zines and that sort of thing. So it's not super affordable. I'll have to check out some of the other companies that you mentioned there. But yeah, not the most affordable thing still. But I'm really excited to see some of these smaller companies, not Sony, not Canon, make cinema lenses that cover a full frame sensor and make it more affordable. That's going to be really exciting because Rokinon's been the only one doing it for like the past, I don't even know, 7-8 years. No one else has been doing it. Hardly. There are a couple lenses out there, but not that many. All right, let's check this out. Carlos Aguilera says, SLR Magic Micro Prime is another option apart from Rokinon. I haven't used those. I know people have talked about them, the Micro Primes. I would love to get my hands on them and test them out. Let me know. Have you used them? What do you think? Are they good? I don't know. I haven't used them. And do they have a nice metal housing or are they plastic? I've been really, really impressed with the nice metal housing on like this Tokina versus the plastic housing on the Rokinons. There's a huge difference in quality just alone right there. So I would love to know. Raymond Dollars, what's up? He says, revisit the Sony A7S II rig, or would you make any changes to it? Yeah, man. So check out one of my latest videos, which was rigging out the Sony A7S III, doing a full rig on that. That's really my update to the original one I did on the Sony A7S 1 or 2 that you may have seen. That's the most viewed video on my channel right now with almost 800,000 views, is rigging the Sony A7S out. So if you're talking about that, go watch the A7S III one. There's nothing that I would change on that right now. That is the most up-to-date rig that I would do for a mirrorless camera. So go check that one out after this stream. Christian Vetter says, I use the Sigma 24-70. Okay, this is a follow-up because he was saying he uses Sony A7S III. I asked him what full-frame lenses he's using. He's used Sigma 24-70, T2.8, 14-24, a 20, a couple of different Sonys that are primes, and he just ordered the Sony 70-200 millimeter. Okay, awesome. Yeah, obviously a really great lineup of lenses there. I believe those are all photo stills lenses, which there's no problem with them. I've been shooting on photo still lenses for a very, very long time and been trying to get more into the cinema style lenses more and more, even beyond the Rokinons. But no, that's a great lineup. You have a lot of great lenses and there's nothing wrong with photo stills. I just been really getting into having everything geared out, not having to like wrap any gears around it or anything like that, because I actually really like to fly them manual as well on a gimbal and then put the follow focus on there and actually do all my focus pulling on the gimbal And those little like rings, those little focus gears that you throw around the lens and tighten down never work good for me. They always end up slipping and giving me issues, but that's a really great lineup of lenses. So awesome stuff. Neil Otans, what's up? He says, do secondhand cinema cameras still good to use? Sure. It depends on, how beat up it is and how old it is. Let me know, what cinema camera are you looking at? Because if it's like the red one, I would probably skip that. Or if it's like the Sony FS700, I would skip that. Depends on which like type of cinema camera you're talking about that's used and old. Titus Nixon, he says, real cinema lens is too expensive for the average Joe, so rent is the only option. Yeah, I agree for the most part. Real cinema lenses are incredibly expensive and not affordable for most of us, especially if you're looking at the full frame cinema lenses. So that's why I've been talking about Super 35 cinema lenses, the type of lenses that films and television shows have been shot on for 100 years now, just about. So these are much more affordable for an owner operator. The Tokina 11-20 is a full cinema lens with APS-C coverage, and it's not cheap, but like I said, it's about $2,200 to $2,400 US. But if you think about all the other lenses you need to cover that focal range of 11 to 20, it's going to add up. So I have like 3 Rokinon lenses that cover this range. So a 14 millimeter, a 16 millimeter, a 24 millimeter, 14, 16, 24. And just those 3 alone add up almost to the price of just this one. So it depends on what you're doing and what lenses you want, but it can be doable to invest in cinema lenses for your lineup if you're doing it the right way, if you're looking at the right options. Like Tokina has a bunch of great options, and DZO Films, like we're about to chat about. But yeah, renting them out for big projects is of course a great option as well if you want to. Let's see. Sorry, I'm going to totally butcher your name here, but Vibehov Corday says, what's your opinion on the Sony A1? Looks cool for some people, for photographers, like people that are doing action sports, wildlife stuff, that sort of like photography. I think it's great, but at that price point, I think it's $6,000. Am I right? I think it's $6,000. Way too expensive, like ridiculously expensive. I would never buy it. Looks nice though. I mean, if I was going to get another full frame camera, especially from Sony, I'd get the A7S III. The A1 I don't even think is personally worth looking at unless you need to do really like high-end photography and like blow those images up really big, because it's a 50 plus megapixel camera. And it doesn't do as well in low light as the A7S III. So yeah, I think it's a fun little camera. There will be some people that buy it, like high-end photographers and stuff, but for the rest of us Joe Schmoes, as Titus says, the average Joe, no. The Sony A1, I will never get it. I don't think I'll ever review it, touch it, anything like that. If I was going to drop $6,000 on a camera, I would buy the red Komodo or the Sony FX6, depending on what I'm in the mood for at that moment in time. Great question, though. I know a lot of people are running about that. That's like, that for me, it's like divert your eyes, look away. And you're like, nah, I don't care. No interest. It's not for me. Yeah, so cool stuff. Let's talk about, back to the full frame versus, crop sensors. And I think you guys probably are already getting the idea that full frame I really love, but I want to get into more of all the cinema style stuff and cinema style lenses. So of course there are all the APS-C Cine crop sensor lenses, but now I want to talk about Cine zooms. So these, like I said, are the DZO Film Pictor zooms, 20 to 50 millimeter. And then here I also have the Pictor zooms 50 to 125 millimeter. So it's the same thing. They both go down to T2.8. So really great lenses. And the thing about that is they are the only affordable cinema lenses on the market today. And the most affordable by all means. So let's check it out. I'll show you guys. I'm gonna hop back into B&H here. So let's do cinema zoom lenses. So by far these just absolutely kill it. So there they are. There's the set for $4,800, which, like I said, is not cheap, but it's cheaper for 2 cinema zoom lenses than it is for a Sony A1, which is like, I think $6,000. So this, you're going to get complete focal length coverage, except for the extreme wide, which the Tokina 11-20 covers. You get full coverage from 20 to 125 millimeters, which is just awesome. It gives you really all the coverage that you could need. And these only cover Super 35, APS-C, says right here. They're only going to cover that, right? Super 35. They're not full frame, because if you wanted a full frame cinema zoom, it's going to be way more expensive. We saw the Anginos at the beginning and they were $28,000 for one, whereas there's only $4,800 for 2. And you're getting just full coverage, and they're interchangeable. I'm going to do a whole review on this actually, guys, so I don't want to dive too deep into it, but you do Canon EF or PL mount. They even make the really cool white Stormtrooper version for the red Komodo. That's the white body version. So cool. But anyways, so this lens, if you want to get into cinema style lenses that are zooms, this is your best, most affordable option. There's nothing else out there like it on the market in this price range. Nothing even comes close for getting this kind of coverage. So let's go back and look at what the other options are in the cinema style zooms. So they do have ones that cover micro four thirds that are even cheaper. So if there's guys out there still shooting on micro four thirds, like Max Soto was saying, you know, $1,500 and you're getting a 20 to 70 zoom lens, cine zoom lens. That's awesome. Really affordable if you're shooting micro four thirds, like the GH5 and that sort of thing. Or the Pocket 4K. This is a great pair up with the Pocket 4K in my opinion. And then here's a pair for $3,000. You're getting full coverage from 10 millimeters to 70 millimeters. Works great for the Pocket 4K. I love that. You're not going to find that coverage in a full frame. So it's just like, crap, I want the nice lenses, but I want a full frame camera. It's just, there's no pairing there. So for me, looking at getting the nice lenses, the cinema style zooms and the cinema primes, you really got to kind of stick with APS-C cameras right now, or micro four thirds cameras. Yeah, so cinema zoom lens, full frame. Let's look at this again. So let's say that you're like, you know what, I'm sticking with A7S III FX6. Well, Sony just released this one, $5,500 for one lens that only covers 16 to 35 millimeters. That's it. You're not getting much coverage. This isn't like a 16 to 55 or 70 or something. Your coverage is not even very good. You know, nice lens, but it only opens up to T3.1, and they're calling that large aperture, large T3.1 aperture. That's not a super large aperture. I mean, it's decent, but it's not even great. The Tokina 11-20 that I have here, this thing opens up to T2.9. So, you know, not a half a stop brighter, but almost. And it gets way wider, 11-20. And it's way cheaper. It's less than half the price. This is better. And yes, it only covers APS-C. It's not full frame, but this is why I'm saying, guys, I think APS-C Super 35 is still where it's at for getting into the cinema lenses. So, yeah. The Angino full frame coverage, $28,000. Holy smokes. So much money for these lenses. And they cover, 45 to 135 millimeters and 30 to 90 millimeters. So no wide. You still need a good wide angle lens. This is really more of medium to telephoto. And dude, you're buying a brand new car for that. A pretty nice car for that price. So yeah, it's just not there. Tokina still coming in with a decent price on the Cinema Vistas, the 16 to 28 millimeter, $4,500. But still, that's that full frame coverage, and it's expensive. This 11-20 I keep talking about is, APS-C coverage and it's 11 to 20. So it's a similar focal range. This one doesn't get as wide. Their Cinema Vista one here doesn't get as wide, but it does zoom in a little bit more for full frame coverage. But it's twice the price. So if you want something similar, just stick with an APS-C or Super 35 camera, and you don't have to drop that much money. So I don't know if you guys are vibing with what I'm saying here. I would love to know your thoughts on this. Am I making sense? Is this good? If it's making sense, please hit like right now and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. So smash the like button, guys. No, let's check out what's going on in the comments. Anytime I get into like screen share mode, I can't see the comments, so I want to see what you guys are up to. Let's see. Sovik Nandi says, might be a bit off topic. May I ask which video capture are you using for this live session? Yeah, no problem, man. So I am using the Blackmagic Mini Recorder, and it's a simple little device. Allows you to plug in either one HDMI or one SDI, and then it plugs in via Thunderbolt into my computer. So if you don't have a Mac, it's not going to be the best option for you, really. I think it actually only works with Mac. Otherwise, get the Elgato HDMI live stream thingamajigger. Look that up. Elgato HDMI live stream unit or something. I think it's like 130 or 140 bucks. So yeah, that's how I do the live streaming. That one works great as well. I've used it many times also. So yeah, let's see. Neil Tons, he says, what is the best cinema camera in the $16,500 budget? That's a really big budget. So, geez. Yeah. Man, that's a hard question to answer. If you're looking for one cinema camera versus two, I mean, $16,500 budget is fantastic. I would probably get, if you're going to go the full frame route, which maybe you don't want to because you want to get the right lenses, maybe I'd go with the Sony FX6 and get two of those, or maybe one and a couple nice full frame lenses. Otherwise, maybe the Sony FX9 or Canon C300 Mark IIs or the C500 if you want full frame. It just depends on what you want. That budget is obviously huge, or possibly go with one of the Reds. I mean, $16,500. Thinking about Red, I think that'll get you like the most entry level Red, not the Red Komodo. Obviously, that's much cheaper at $6,000. You could get like 3 Red Komodos for that price. But yeah, so almost 3. So it just kind of depends on what you want to do. Let me know, Niels. Are you just looking for one cinema camera at that budget or multiple? I mean, obviously that's a really good budget. Depends. And also what kind of lenses are you already invested in? So that would determine what kind of mount you want to get. But yeah, for the most part, there's just so much possibilities there with that kind of budget. There's a lot of really good cinema lenses or cinema cameras that you could buy and try and keep a budget for the cinema lenses to cover them. So, all right. Ali Hamad, what's up? Welcome back. Let's see. Gab Lapalais says A7S III is a beast in low light thanks to the 12 megapixels. Absolutely. Yes. We were talking about that earlier. A7S III is fantastic. I know other people have discussed this before, but real quick, little, not even scientific breakdown. Essentially, it's only 12 megapixels. It's not 50 megapixels like the other ones because the pixels get smaller and smaller and smaller on that sensor. They get all packed together and it makes it harder for them to collect light because the photo sites are small. But if you keep only 12 megapixels, like on the A7 lineup, the whole way through, it's only been 12 megapixels from the A7 to the A7 III. It has larger photo sites, so it can gather more light, and it does much better at keeping the noise floor low and being really good and sensitive to light. Once you get really high megapixel count, it doesn't perform as well. It's really good for photography, obviously, really high res stuff, but not as great for video work. So yeah, it's an absolute beast. Dav says, get so much fun to listening to you while working in the office. Nice. I don't know what time it is where you're at. Here it's 9:20 at night. Maybe you work a late night job. Maybe you're on the other side of the world. It's morning. Yeah, man, I have many times in my life just enjoyed listening to a live or podcast or something when I can. And I'm working on something that allows me to. That's nice. Yeah, cool. So David Klein says, thank you. You're welcome. I don't know what it's for. I don't know what I did, but You're welcome. Yeah, so let's get back to the lenses. So full frame versus APS-C. Man, I've been loving APS-C recently, I gotta tell you. So, obviously shooting a lot on the Pocket 6K, and I love it because it's a Canon EF mount, which these Cine lenses that I have are native Canon EF mounts. They are interchangeable to PL. So if I ever end up renting them out or switching to a camera that has a PL mount, I can do that. But just going to show you real quick, just a normal old Canon EF mount, and boom, nice coverage, complete coverage of the lens, Cine lens, full metal housing, 11 to 20 millimeters on the Pocket 6K, which is incredible. The 11 millimeters full frame coverage is about a 16 millimeter, and the 20 is about 35 millimeters. So you're getting about a 16 to 35 millimeter full frame equivalent here, which is nice. But I absolutely love that. But let's say, hey, I reach 20 millimeters and I need to go, further down the range. Well, that's where I'm going to pick up this one, the Pictor Zoom 20 to 55. And right away it can pick up right where I left off at 20 millimeters, and now zoom in further to 20 to 50 and beyond. These lenses are incredible. All of them are parfocal. I'm going to do a whole review on these ones as well, just like I did for the Tokinas. And if you're not familiar with what parfocal is, essentially it means once you pull focus on whatever it is, say you're zoomed out at 20 millimeters, and then you're like, you know what, I got to just pop in a little bit there on the person I'm interviewing or something, and you go to 45 millimeters, well, you don't have to refocus. Everything's still going to look crisp and sharp because it's parfocal. And you have to do that when you get them, customize it to your lens, doing shims and everything like that. I'll talk about that later, but it's not too difficult to do. It takes a little bit of time and a focus chart and stuff, but I was able to get them parfocal with this, which is just incredible. Look at this. It's a beast of a setup. Pocket 6K, little, Cine cam. I know it gets a lot of crap because people make fun of it because it's plasticky looking and kind of, it's not the best looking camera, the body style. I wish it was a little cube style like the red Komodo. But yeah, it's not. And obviously the lens on there is just incredible. So I love this setup because it's so diverse. And of course, I could throw all of the different focus gears on there if I want to, do like a full fizz, which is focus, iris, and zoom, motor control on there, and do all of that if I need to have someone do that remotely. But I just think being able to cover this full frame sensor with all three of these lenses that are all cinema lenses that are pretty freaking affordable is incredible. Between these three, right, it's about $4,000, like I was saying, for the a little past $4,000 for the set of the two Pictor Zooms. I think it's like $4,500. And then the Tokina was just past $2,000. So for about between $6,000 and $7,000, you have full coverage in cinema style lenses from 11 millimeters to 125, which is incredible. All of them opening up fully to T2.8 and T2.9. So really, really great. Yeah, I think it's really the way to go right now is APS-C until they make affordable full frame cinema lenses, because I can't shoot on, I just really don't like shooting on stills lenses that much anymore. I just get frustrated with them, especially now that most of the stills frames lenses that are coming out, that are native, especially like the Sony mount ones and the Fuji mount ones, are focus by wire, which I hate. It's terrible. Oh my gosh. I don't know. Do you guys feel this way? Do you like focus by wire? I try to stay positive on the channel, guys, but I hate focus by wire. It's terrible. You're trying to get that focus just right, and it's it goes way past or way before, and you're like, I'm finessing it, and it just doesn't work out great. I don't like focus by wire. I like completely manual focus. This has nothing to do with the camera body. Whatever I do here will only affect the lens internally. I don't want a computer, the camera body, deciding how my focus is. Stop. I don't know. Let me know if you guys agree with me and comment below. Do you like focus by wire or not? I don't know. I don't. I like fully manual lenses, and I like fully manual aperture control, which you're not really getting on stills lenses either. I like being able to just quickly pop open my aperture. I don't have to mess with any buttons or scroll wheels or dials on the camera itself. Just boom, get me to T2.8. Try to shoot wide open every time. I don't think I ever stop past T2.8. Maybe the furthest I go is 5.6 if I'm shooting outside and I'm like really have to, maybe on a gimbal or something. Yeah, but for pretty much everything I do, I never go past 5.6. So 8, 11, 16, 22, those are all pretty much pointless to me on a lens. I don't know who the freak shoots so stop down and use ND filters. I don't get that. Yeah, so anyways, going on a tangent here. Yeah, so let's see. Let's see here. What's going on in the chat? Okay. Dav says it's 11:20 a.m. at Thailand. He's the one that was talking about watching during work. That's funny, man. Yeah, it's early over there. It's late over here. We're all on different schedules around the world. That's fun. Get some water. Baron Savory says, what lens and camera are you using now? If you mean literally right now that I'm filming on, like I was mentioning earlier, I'm shooting on the Sony A6500 with the Sigma 16mm. I love this pair. Seriously, it's one of my favorites for talking head stuff because the autofocus on it is really good. Now, I know I was just talking about how much I love manual focus, and I do when I'm behind the camera. When I'm in front of the camera, and I got to talk to you guys, I need autofocus because I don't have a camera operator. I don't have someone full-time pulling focus for me. So I need good autofocus. That's what I'm shooting on right now. And when I do a lot of my talking head, I'm relying on that autofocus. But anytime I actually get to control the camera, film the commercial, film the ad, film the interview, whatever it is, I will always be manually focusing. You'll never catch me using autofocus on the client shoot. I just use it for this kind of stuff, or like if I was to get into vlogs or something. By the way, what do you guys think about this shirt? New shirt I just got. Super random, but I just saw the image here and I was like, dude, this thing's dope. Just got it tonight. So it's from, what's it called? Into the AM. Check out their website if you like it. Not sponsored. Into the AM. They make a bunch of cool like sci-fi shirts that I really like. Anyways, so let's see what other comments are going on. Okay. Saul Marquez, he says, first off, what's up? He says, what are cinema lenses better for Sony? I think what he's saying, if I understand you right, is what are the best cinema lenses for Sony possibly? I would say that good cinema lenses for Sony is anything that you can adapt to it that's a cinema lens. I use the Rokinons. I have a whole set of all the Rokinon cinema lenses. Their Canon EF mount. I also, at the studio that I work with, we have them all in E mount. Those are great. I think they're nice. Rokinons get a lot of crap. I don't know why. I know people think they have a green tint. Maybe there's a tinge of green tint that's easy to change in post-production in color grading, but I think they're nice. They're good entry level. That's probably what I would go with if you're talking about full frame cinema glass, because yeah. So anyways, hopefully that answers your question. Let's see. Analyze it says, is it just me or did anyone else just get recommended to this channel? This was the first thing that I saw when I logged into YouTube. Nice. I don't know why. That's really random. Welcome to the channel, Analyze It. I don't know if you do video production or photography or if you ever watch one of these, but welcome in. Hit subscribe, man. Welcome in, or girl. I don't know. Analyze it. You could, whatever. Anyways, welcome to the channel. Let's see. Gab La Police says, aha, Analyze It. Pretty the same for me for this live. Weird. Okay, well, welcome to the live, guys. That's fun. And he says, my last name is Cops in French. The Cops in French. Oh, strange. Okay. Oh, La Police. I get it. That's funny. Okay. The Idiot Savant says, what are your thoughts about the Pocket 4K as a cinema camera? Yeah, so if you're just joining us now, I have the Pocket 6K here, which, as you know, is the big brother to the 4K. They're pretty much the exact same camera. I mean, let's be honest. The color processing, same. B-RAW, same. Everything's the same except you're going to get higher resolution in 6K and the Super 35, sensor, the crop sensor, as opposed to Micro Four Thirds. Fantastic. I would get the Pocket 4K if I wanted to shoot Micro Four Thirds, which I don't. I really prefer Super 35 or possibly full frame. Micro Four Thirds has not been a thing for me because it doesn't do as well in low light, and it's much harder to get a shallow depth of field, which I actually want to talk about now, because we've been talking about so much about full frame versus crop sensor. One of the big differences there is your ability to get bokeh. So on a full frame lens and sensor, it's much easier to get a blurred out, more shallow depth of field on a full frame camera than it is on APS-C, which I know we're all seeking that. It looks more cinematic, quote unquote, to have that blurry bokeh background. It's easier to achieve on a full frame. It just is. Anytime I'm shooting on full frame, boom, I can get that background to blur much quicker than I can on a crop sensor, and especially on a Micro Four Thirds sensor. But it's not a huge deal because, listen, if you are shooting on a full frame camera, let's say we've got the Rokinon lens here, full frame, and I'm shooting at T 2.8, and it looks nice, good shallow depth of field, and I want to get that same depth of field on a crop sensor camera. So let's say I'm shooting on the X-T4 or something, or the Pocket, and I have my lens. Well, you have to shoot at an aperture that is one stop wider than it was on the full frame to get the same amount of shallow depth of field. So that's why you have to get cinema lenses that can get pretty wide open. If you're looking at something that's like a F4 or T4 in a cinema lens, it's going to be, and it's a crop sensor, it's not going to give you a very shallow depth of field. So you want at least T2.8 or 9, and T2 would be preferred. There are not a lot of cinema style lenses that open up to like T1.5, T1.8. Excuse me. There's not a lot of them. The ones that I can think of that do that are the Rokinons and the Zines. Especially like they do in the primes. If you're getting prime lenses, they open up further to like T1.8, T1.5. And at that point, yes, you will get just as shallow depth of field as you would on a full frame, but you have to be one stop wider than you were on the full frame. So you just got to buy the right lenses that can open up wider, and you can get a similar shallow depth of field that you can on a full frame. So that was a big deal to me. I was like, man, I love the look of full frame, and I really don't want to give that up. I want that shallow depth of field, but as long as you are shooting with a lens that's fast enough and gets a wide enough aperture, you will get that nice shallow depth of field still. You don't have to have a full frame to get that. It's just a matter of balancing that and getting a lens that can handle it. So something to keep in mind. I think it is really important because a lot of people want full frame for that effect, but if you get the right lenses, you can still get the full frame look per se. Yeah, so let's see what else is going on here. Swapnil says, hi Chad, can you talk about new Sony camera color science, A6600, A7R4, A7S3, FX9, previous gen cams, like the A7R3, FS5 II? Yeah, so obviously I don't know exactly what they did to the color science. Does anyone really know? But what I will say is, of course, yes, the Sony A7S3, which is of the cameras you just mentioned, is the one that I've shot on latest with the newest color science, and it looks great. The skin tones are beautiful. The dynamic range, of course, is really good. You can keep highlights and detail in the skies. You don't blow them out. You can still see your subject and the bright background. I did an entire review on that, on dynamic range on that camera on this channel if you want to check it out. But yes, the color science is much better. The skin tones look much better than they do on the previous generation of cameras, like you mentioned, the Sony FS5 II and FS7, which we shoot on at the studio that I work at. We shoot on those lenses every single day, and the color science is not as good as the latest color science. What did they change? I don't know. They did something to make the skin tones look better. They look so much more natural. Just like you get on the Pocket 4K and 6K, the skin tones are natural. They have a great quality to them. And the same thing goes for the Fujifilm X-T4. Really nice quality of skin tones always impressed with them. All right. Glyco, what's up, brother? He says, I'm your new subscriber. Awesome. Thank you for subscribing. Welcome to a live stream. I appreciate it. Alex TML says, what do you mean? You live the full frame behind? Oh, okay. Yes. Yeah. So if you're just joining the live stream now, I've been talking all about whether or not you should have full frame or APS-C and what's the best. And really, to boil it down, I have sold off my full frame cameras. I don't currently own any. I am only invested now in in APS-C and crop sensor cameras. And same with all the lenses that I'm going to be buying from here on out. I will only be buying crop sensor lenses that are cinema style lenses because they're just so much more affordable. It's much more affordable to buy the nice glass that is cine style than it is to buy that for full frame, and there's very few options. So yeah, I mean, for right now, doing video work, full frame is, I don't think, the best option for me. I think for photography, it's great. If you're buying full frame stills lenses, I still think it's a really, really good option. All right. Hunter, what's up? He says, if you ever want to invest in someone to make their dreams come true, let me know because I'm willing to do anything for it. Appreciate that. I don't know where you're at, but if I ever need some help or something on set, maybe that's a possibility. Appreciate that. Yeah, let's see here. So Pascal Dante says, hello, do you think a Blackmagic Pocket full frame could come soon? Yeah, so we were just talking about this earlier in the live stream. I was talking about Blackmagic and I was talking with some folks over there, and I don't know. They don't release any announcements or anything like that early. They've never done a full frame sensor. Everything's always been crop through their entire lineup or micro four thirds. So it'd be really interesting. They don't put any little, teasers out there, or no leaks have come out from Blackmagic. So I don't know if they'll do full frame. I think it's possible, but I think before them doing full frame, they might introduce, like a pocket that does 8K or something. They already have the 12K Ursa Mini. So maybe they'll drop an 8K pocket camera or something. And if they do drop a full frame camera, I'll be a little bit disappointed because I just started investing in all the APS-C lenses because they have the most affordable cinema style lenses. So yeah, I don't think I would get it anyways. Let's see. Okay, Gab. Gab says, you have to use crop factor to know the aperture equivalent in APS-C, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, exactly. So basically what you're saying is correct. If you want to get the full frame look on an APS-C camera, you need to be at least one stop larger. It's not exactly that, but it's around one stop more open on the APS-C camera versus the full frame. You could do the math and get closer, but yeah, it's about that. All right. Yeah, so let me know if there's other questions you guys have about full frame versus APS-C and the lenses that I've been showing tonight, that sort of thing. We're about, just past an hour on the live stream. It's been a ton of fun to hang out with you guys. I want to wrap it up for you guys soon, not take all your time. So let me know. Alex says, I recently just got the A7 III and 50 millimeter 1.8, and then the Tamron 28 to 75 2.8. I'm actually so hyped to create more content. Dude, that's awesome. Yeah, the Sony A7 III is great. Love it. Shot on it. It's a really good camera, really good autofocus. Obviously, great camera. Larger battery, so you get more battery life on it. And yeah, you don't have to have cinema style lenses like I've been showing you tonight. You don't have to have these. They're much more expensive. The Cine Stills lenses, I have a ton of them, shot a lot on them, and I think they're really great. So I think that's a good lineup of lenses you've got there. I've been wanting to check out the Tamron 28 to 75, so let me know how that goes. And of course, 50 millimeter 1.8 is going to give you incredible shallow depth of field on the full frame. So that's really cool. Swapnil says, I'm hoping Blackmagic releases a 6K with E-mount glass as I've invested so much in E-mount. Yeah, I hate to say it, man. That's not going to happen. That would be cool, but I actually don't know if this is true. Don't quote me, but I don't think that any other camera company has like the licensing or rights right now to release a camera with an E-mount. If there is one out there, let me know. But I think only Sony cameras have Sony E-mount. It's very rare. The reason that Canon EF is so popular is because they must have worked something out with licensing or something, because they've been around so long that they've made it possible for other companies to make Canon EF mount cameras, like the Blackmagic, Pocket 6K, the Red Komodo, which uses Canon RF mount, or any of the Z cams, which I believe they have Canon EF mount as well. So yeah, there's other companies that have taken advantage of that mount, but unfortunately, I don't think that Sony E-mount is going to come to any other camera besides a Sony. Anything's possible, but I don't think it's happening anytime soon. Sorry. That's why I didn't invest in a lot of Sony glass. Just a heads up. And maybe you guys should know this before. If you're like me and you were starting out like I was years ago, I wouldn't get too tied to one mount type, or body style. So say I've got here the Fujifilm X-T4. I have 2 Fuji mount lenses for it, native, and everything else that I put onto it, I adapt. I use an adapter and adapt because I switch cameras relatively frequently. And so for that reason, I've decided to invest all in Canon EF mount. Like this Tokina here is a Canon EF mount. And that means that, of course, I can put it natively onto the Pocket 6K or any Canon camera, but I can also adapt it to a Sony camera, the Fuji camera, literally pretty much any mirrorless camera I can adapt Canon EF glass to. So if you were to take my recommendation, I would recommend that you buy glass that you can adapt to other bodies, because glass you're going to hang on to for much longer than the body. The bodies update every couple years, and you'll probably end up choosing a different system. You might switch from Canon to Sony and over maybe to Nikon. Please don't. Please don't. But, so that's my suggestion. Everything I have is Canon EF, all the Rokinons, Canon EF, because I can adapt them. I don't even own a Canon camera. I haven't owned a Canon camera for years, but I just adapt the glass to whatever I want. So that's my recommendation. Let's see. Alex says, I've been doing YouTube for many years now and video editing. Does that count as experience to work in a studio? I'm finally finishing my university course in design, but I want to. Heck yeah, of course. It depends on the studio and like how high end they are. But yes, there are plenty of studios that are just looking for editors or people to help out, B cam on set, set up lights, whatever it is. Obviously the market might be a little bit difficult right now with the state of the world, but the studio that I work at, we have hired plenty of guys just that don't have a ton of experience, but they learn more and more on the job, or they just came out of film school, that sort of thing. So absolutely, yes. You can go work at a studio doing, with the amount of experience that you have, like just knowing how to edit a video in, Premiere or Final Cut, whatever it is, or maybe DaVinci Resolve, you have a leg up over anyone else that applies. So yes, I think that's definitely possible. Let's see. Pascal Dante says, how do you mount anamorphic lenses on the cheap on the 6K? Is there just Atlas Orion? Not that cheap. Yeah, that's correct. So unfortunately, the only lenses, and I may be wrong here, correct me if I'm wrong, the only anamorphic lenses that currently mount on the Pocket 6K are the Atlas Orion anamorphics, because you can get them in Canon EF mount. And I've done that. I've done a whole video on it. You may have seen that. But as far as I know, there aren't any Canon EF mount lenses made that are anamorphic that are on the cheap. The Vazen ones are all Micro Four Thirds mount, I believe, right now. And I don't think they have a mount that's Canon EF. And then of course there's the CRU or CRU anamorphic lenses that are getting really popular, but they only have a 1.33 times crop. That's why I've never even used them, reviewed them, anything like that. I think it's a fun thing, and it's cool what they're doing with the market, trying to make affordable anamorphics. But why couldn't they have made them a 2 times crop or even a 1.8 times crop like Vazen? I just don't get it. 1.33 is like almost nothing. I get that it basically fills the sensor and then makes it a 2:3:5 aspect ratio. Sorry, I'm getting like throwing out numbers, but you guys know this stuff. It does do that natively with the lens and the sensor for APS-C crop sensors, which I think is great, but it just doesn't have the look that I want. 1.33 squeeze anamorphic is not good enough. And yeah, it doesn't mount on the Canon. So unfortunately right now, I won't be able to invest in any like real anamorphic lenses. I'm not going to do it until they make EF mount ones, because that's, like I said, that's the mount that I've invested in. So it's just not going to happen right now. Not until they do it for Canon EF in an affordable way. The Atlas ORANs I would love, but they're about $8,000 a piece. And every time I look, the prices on them keep going up because I think they're in high demand and they don't manufacture that many of them. All right, so let's see here. Basically, okay, Alex says, basically I have this imposter kind of feeling and just don't know how to break through, and just go for it and apply for jobs. Just apply. That's all you got to do. Make a resume today, you know, that explains the stuff that you've done in video editing and stuff. You know, I can edit this and that. These are the programs that I can do. I've been doing it for this many years. I'm proficient in this program. Include programs that are like Photoshop, Illustrator, those sort of things as well, if you do them, because they apply to video editing. So many times I'm working on a project where I have to Photoshop an image or Photoshop a graphic and then bring it into my video editor. So just add it on there. It doesn't hurt. You can send out your resume to as many companies as you want. And hey, if they never call or email you, who the heck cares? You're never going to meet them anyways. If they call you in for an interview, you know, you're going to be honest and tell them how much you know, and they'll work with you. I don't think you got to worry about that at all. Just go for it. The Idiot Savant says, sorry if you covered this, but any advice on vintage cinema lens or recommendations? Yeah, I haven't covered it in this video, but I've done whole videos on it before. You can check out my review of the Helios 44M or 442. It's a great old lens, but it's not a cinema style lens. It can be rehoused to cinema glass. But yeah, if you can find an old cinema lens, like with, you know, teeth on it with a nice, you know, metal body and stuff, definitely go for it. They have a lot more character to them than the more clinical ones, like the Rokinons here. Extremely clinical. They're sharp in my opinion, but yeah, I think that's great. If you can find old vintage cine style lenses, go for it. That'd be awesome. Let's see. William Sue says Micro Four Thirds is the future. Oh man, that's funny. I've seen a video titled, I don't remember who made it, but it said like, is Micro Four dead? So yeah, I don't think I'll ever shoot Micro Four Thirds. That's just me. It doesn't have a good enough low light performance, enough of a shallow depth of field, but it does have very affordable lenses. I'll give them that. You know, obviously Vazen and DZO Films and Mikey and like all these different like third-party companies and Chinese companies are making really affordable lenses for Micro Four Thirds, which I think is great. I just don't like the sensor. It doesn't have the quality that I am looking for. So, but I think it's great for some people. I think that's great. So stick with it, William. Yeah, Alex says, thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, go for it, man. Go for your dreams. Do it. You know, time is short. So the time is now to go for it. Pascal Dante says, the new Vazen 85mm have EF mount, but it's $8,000. Yeah, why the heck would I buy the Vazen for $8,000 when I could buy the Atlas anamorphic for $8,000? And it's probably better. I don't know for sure. I've shot on the Atlas anamorphics, and I love those. Oh my gosh, I wish I could get a pair of those. But the Vazens I haven't, and they're much newer to the game. Yeah, I would never buy those for $8,000. But that's interesting. Good to know that they have an EF mount version. I'll have to check that out. I think I actually might have seen that on B&H when I was scrolling through, but I didn't realize that it was a full frame from Vazen. All right, so yeah, sweet, good stuff. Yeah, I think we're kind of caught up on the comments there, guys. If you've been enjoying the live stream, getting something out of it, be sure to hit the like button right now. There's 34 of you guys watching, so if I don't even get 34 likes on this video, that's gonna be sad. And be sure that you're subscribed as well, because it's great to have you guys around. It's a little community we have here around cinematography and filmmaking. So yeah, guys, any other questions you have, on full frame versus APS-C and whether or not you should leave full frame behind, let me know in the comments now before I click off, or comment on this video in the live chat replay and I'll check it out. But yeah, it's been a ton of fun chatting with you guys tonight. And I'll probably catch you guys in the next live stream unless there's any more last minute questions here. So real quick, Pascal says, are the DZO zooms that good? Yeah, I'm going to do a full review of them. I'm working on the review right now this week. Both of them right here. Really, really great lenses. They get nice and wide open. They are not extremely sharp. It even says on the box, it says like artistic softness or something like that. And it does look like there's about a quarter to, it looks like there's not a quarter, but about an eighth of a black pro mist on it is what it looks like. And I don't know if if there's an actual coating on the lens or what. I don't think there is that's doing that, but it does look like there's about an eighth of pro mist on there. So it gives them a nice soft filmic feel to them, which is nice. But they're really great. They're really high quality lenses. This metal housing is gorgeous. Cine zooms at that price is incredible. So keep an eye out on the channel for that full review, man. Let's see. Yeah, Alex says, thank you for your kindness. This is staying up late. Yeah, so on and so on. Yeah, man, of course. Get out there, go make that resume, start applying this stuff. It's definitely worth it. You might get that job you've always wanted at the studio, so that's cool. Okay, final things here. Swapnil says, do you think Sony will release 10-bit APS-C camera this year? I hope so. Oh my gosh, this is such a tangent. Don't take me down this road. I hope that Sony releases a really nice, like higher end APS-C camera, because right now the highest APS-C camera they have is a Sony a6600, which in so many ways I think is a superior APS-C camera, like is their most superior APS-C camera, but it's only 8-bit. It's not 10-bit like you're getting out of the Fujifilm X-T4 or so many other cameras on the market, the GH5, and just so many other cameras that have gone into 10-bit that are crop sensor. Obviously the Pocket 6K that's technically 16-bit down to 12-bit. Linear, I hope Sony does that. If they do, I'll definitely buy it because I still love my Sony cameras. I just really want them to make an APS-C 10-bit camera. You're 100% right about that. I hope they do, but I don't know if they will, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching. It's been a ton of fun hanging out again. I'll catch you guys hopefully in the next live stream, and of course in the next video coming out all about the DZO Films lenses. So stay tuned for that. Again, hit the like button, smash subscribe, all that good stuff. And you guys have a great night. I'll talk to you later. Take it easy. Adios. Bye.